This is Youngspeak Sports bringing to you another podcast this week. We've got three guys here today. Christopher Kaufman, one of our usual staff members, and then we're bringing back another special guest to you. Last week we had Justin Dade in here from fantasypros.com, one of their Atlanta Falcons correspondents, and he's going to join us again this week. How's it going, guys?
It's going good, Hayes. You?
Yeah, we're doing well. We're glad to have you back here along with Christopher Kaufman, who missed last week because he was in New York on a mission trip. But how are you doing, Christopher?
That's me. Doing pretty well. Still trying to catch up on sleep. But I'm here now.
Good. Well, we hope you don't catch up on too much sleep, though, because we want you to remain interested in all of our sports news going on here. And in the last week, we've had a couple of big signings and events go on since our last podcast. So we're going to talk about Russell Wilson re-signing with the Seahawks and whether that was a good acquisition for the Seahawks, whether it was a good contract for them, or whether Russell Wilson was actually the winner in that deal. Also, we're going to talk about Ray Rice having an interview with ESPN's Jamel Hill talking about his elevator incident, whether we believe he should get a second chance in the NFL or whether he should just kind of go down as this is something that would define him. But we'll talk about that a little bit, but we won't go too much into it. We're going to talk about some of his quotes in his interview and then what we thought about that in particular. Also, we're going to talk about the MLB Trade Deadline a little bit, some of the big moves that went on there that happened last week. But first, we'll kick it off with the NFC West with Russell Wilson re-signing with the Seahawks. It was a 4-year deal worth $87.6 million. And I actually wrote an article about this a few days ago where I really went into detail with some of the contract details. But we'll go ahead and let Christopher start us out with this topic. If you go out and check my article, you'll see a lot of my opinions on the matter. But Christopher, tell me, who won this trade in your opinion?
I think this actually benefits both sides of the situation. I mean, everybody knew Russell Wilson was going to be getting a massive deal this offseason, and a lot of people think he was going to get overpaid, even though he's really not the best player on the team and certainly not the best quarterback in the league. I feel like this is a deal worth what he has done. I mean, it may not be worth his skill set, but at least what he's brought to the Seahawks. This is a good deal for him and a good deal for the Seahawks. It's 4 years, nearly $22 million a year. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are going to say he's overpaid. I can't remember the exact metric. Isn't he the fourth highest, fifth highest, somewhere around there?
Right now he'll be the second highest paid quarterback per year average at $21.9 million.
Second, really? Wow.
Mm-hmm. Only behind Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, sure. I mean, every year you see the quarterbacks, or you see players getting bigger and bigger deals, and next year we all know who's going to have the biggest deal come next offseason. That's Andrew Luck, but that's a topic for a different day. But, I mean, a lot of people think, like I was saying, he's going to get overpaid. I feel like this is a good deal for both sides. The Seahawks get to keep Russell Wilson for 4 years, and Russell Wilson gets $22 million a year. I mean, he's worth it. He's worth it, in my opinion. He brought them to 2 consecutive Super Bowls and won one.
Yeah, what do you think about this, Justin?
Yeah, I agree with the fact that it benefits both sides. Personally, do I think Russell Wilson individual as a football player is worth $22 million a season? No. But when you think about all the things that he brings to that team that's off the field, whether it is his good Christian attitude and the things he does with the fans, he connects with the fans there in Seattle so well. The fans love him there. I feel like if John Schneider was to let Russell Wilson go somewhere else, that'd be chaos and it wouldn't be good. And I thought this is the right move. You know, I don't think they overpaid too much, but I think a lot of people, when they think about Russell Wilson and this 22 point whatever $1 million that he's getting paid a season, they credit his wins and things to the defense, and I really think that's unfair to Russell Wilson in a way because he's not on that side of the ball and he can't help his situation. But he's only lost, 12 games now in 3 years, something like that, and that's incredible in my opinion. And I think this benefits the Seahawks a lot because they couldn't let Russell Wilson go.
Well, I agree with you there. On the point of who's really the winner in this trade, I got to give it to the Seahawks to a certain degree because
Yep.
I was really expecting Russell Wilson to get a higher amount than this. I know it sounds a little crazy to say that about $88 million dollars is a bargain. $60 million dollars is a bargain. But for a guy who's only about 25, 26 years old, only going into his fourth season in the NFL, he's already led his team to two Super Bowls, won one, probably should have won two if Pete Carroll had actually decided to run the ball at the end of the game. But
Right.
Hey, but that whole situation, they make that touchdown, he's a genius because everybody expected Marshall. That's a different topic. You
yeah,
continue.
yeah, no, that's okay. But I really thought this was a bargain for Seattle because I expected them to sign him to something like 5 or 6 years, probably about 5 years, $115 million. I really expected him to set the market value for quarterbacks going into the future. I mean, come on, let's be real. Jay Cutler got $126 million.
Oh man.
Yep.
If 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 like the man who created interceptions could get $126 million, certainly a guy who's led his team to back-to-back Super Bowls could get over that $100 million hump. So, while he is earning on average the second most per year, I think the fact that they only had to lock him up for 4 years at only $87 million, $60 million guaranteed is not a bad deal for Seattle. Um, and really, if you want to go into some of the minor details I looked at, go look at my article. Really, the things I just want to argue here is that I agree with Justin. The defense does not carry Seattle. They
No.
could not have gotten to where they are without the play of Russell Wilson. You can't just throw in Tavares Jackson in there and expect them to win
Oof.
12 games a year. Let's be real. Uh, while his passing stats aren't exactly jumping off the page, they're really like Alex Smith's if you look at them. The running game is where he really thrives.
There you
Running
go.
the read option,
Extending the play too.
exactly. And Seattle hasn't really had a great offensive line, so his ability to, escape the pocket or um, his uncanny ability to feel the pressure has really, really helped Seattle's offense. And they ranked 10th in the NFL last year in total offense. So it's not like they're just an average offense, just kind of scathing by, just hoping their defense makes a play.
Right.
These are guys who are going out there and maybe I'm not going to say they're winning the game, but they are making a big impact in how Seattle's playing.
I'd be interested. You brought up the offensive line. I'd be interested to see what they do next year now that they traded away arguably their best offensive lineman in their center Max Ungerer. But they ended up getting Jimmy Graham for that, which adds an explosiveness aspect to their offense. But then again, you need somebody to block for your quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
and trading away your best offensive lineman isn't an ideal situation in order to provide protection. But again,
Yeah,
we'll see what the future holds.
and Jimmy Graham isn't really a great blocking tight end either.
He's
No,
not.
So
he's actually
yeah,
not even good. He's
yeah,
very subpar.
yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how when they bring him into packages, whether he's going to be able to hold up the load there at as a blocking tight end. That'll be interesting to see. And a weird little tidbit of information here. Jimmy Graham recently came out saying that he was thinking he was going to block 75% of the time, which is,
Ooh, not good for the
yeah,
Seahawks.
I was really shocked by that quote. And I don't know, maybe if he's just maybe misunderstanding things or whether he's just kind of messing
Who was,
around here, but that does not make any sense at all.
who
No,
was the Seahawks tight end before him? Was it Jermaine Kearse or whatever his name was?
no,
No,
no.
it
It
was
was
Or he's a wide
Luke
receiver.
Wilson. Luke Wilson.
yeah,
Luke. Oh, that's it. Okay.
yeah. Who's not a bad receiving tight end himself, but he's not
He's a
Jimmy
block.
Graham. He's not
No.
Jimmy Graham. But yeah, that was weird. But the thing for me with getting back to Russell Wilson here is he's a winner. He's consistent. He's not a guy who's going to have injury concerns. You know what you're going to get out of him. And really, the biggest thing for me in this whole thing is he is a valuable asset because there aren't many other guys out there in the NFL like him.
Nope.
Now, there are other quarterbacks who are a dual threat to a certain degree. Robert Griffin III, Colin Kaepernick, Cam Newton. But
Alex Smith.
okay, I'll give you Alex Smith because he can actually run the ball pretty well. He's got good legs, but they don't utilize him enough in that aspect.
They don't need to.
Yeah, they've got Jamal Charles for that. But
There you go.
Russell Wilson is the best passer out of that group. He has not had injury concerns like Robert Griffin III or even Cam Newton. Cam Newton has never won on the same level that Russell Wilson has done. Colin Kaepernick has made a Super Bowl, but I just don't think he's ever going to develop as an elite passer. He's really limited in that aspect of the game. So he's a winner. He fits Seattle's offense like a glove. He's perfect for them. And if you're Seattle, you couldn't let him go. I mean,
No.
you've got a chance to create a dynasty here, and retaining him was the main factor in keeping that hope alive.
If there's anybody out there who are, complaining about the number here for millions of dollars, when you think about the salary cap that each year it's going to go up, and with inflation, these contracts that seem ridiculous right now might not seem so ridiculous down the road in reality. So I don't think the money was too ridiculous for this type of player.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that I brought up in my piece is really when you look at guys who have signed contracts this year, this offseason, Cam Newton, Ryan Tannehill specifically, they earned. Newton earned almost $21 million per year, and Tannehill earned a little over $19 million per year. So if you're talking about Russell Wilson, a guy who has really, proven a lot more than both of those guys as far as wins, only $1 million more than Cam Newton, that's got to be a bargain, right?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you gotta bring into effect that Cam Newton as a quarterback, I would say is better than Russell Wilson. Just the team around him is so garbage that
Mhm.
he's not winning anything. As for Tannehill, I mean, you can go either way on the subject.
I will disagree with you there. I think that Russell Wilson is a way better quarterback than Cam Newton is. Maybe it's just because I don't like his attitude, but Russell Wilson can make plays with his feet. I feel Cam Newton's more of a power runner type of guy who won't break it, but I still think I would prefer Russell Wilson throwing the football than Cam Newton.
Mm. We all have our own opinions.
yeah, I'd have to agree with Justin there. I feel like Wilson's the more complete quarterback. And Cam Newton really hasn't had a bad team around him the past couple of years. His defense, his, his
Have you looked at his
defense,
offense? I
hi-
mean, he other than Kelvin Benjamin, he hasn't had anybody to throw the ball to.
I mean,
Greg Olson?
yeah, his defense
Greg,
has been
you're not
great.
throwing. Unless you're the Saints, you're not throwing to the tight end 90% of the time of passing plays. So
Greg Olson's pretty good.
yeah, but
And
do
I
you really
think
want Greg Olson catching, I don't know, 10 passes a game for X amount, or is he going to do that?
I think
Is
he can.
I mean, he can, but as for a game plan, would that be a smart idea? I mean, people are going to pick up on that pretty quick.
No, I would agree that Cam Newton hasn't had the best offense around him in recent years, but they're getting there. The offensive line may be the worst in football.
Yeah, I was.
But at least he has
Atlanta
some-
Falcons. Let me point that one out for you.
Well, that's close.
Well,
It's
can
close.
we just agree that the entire NFC South's offensive line is in shambles?
Yeah.
There you go.
Like literally every team in that division could arguably have the worst offensive line in football. Granted, the Dolphins are close there too, but as far as Newton goes, I agree his weapons haven't been great. But look at Russell Wilson. He's had Jermaine Kearse and Doug Baldwin and Percy Harvin.
I will give you that. I will give you that.
Although he's had Marshawn Lynch.
That's exactly what I was about to bring up.
But again, Marshawn Lynch, I feel like is a little. Take this with a grain of salt. I feel like he's a little overrated as far as people go because you look at what he did before Russell Wilson got there, and it's not elite numbers. He had a lot of issues in Buffalo, especially his last 2 years. Buffalo gave him away for essentially nothing. And since Russell Wilson came into the picture in Seattle and they have run this read option, it's really helped out Marshawn Lynch. Now, I'm not dissing Marshawn Lynch in any way. He's a great running back, but he's not the best running back in football.
What year did Russell Wilson come in? 2012, is that right?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, I've got Marshawn Lynch's stats up, and they actually go along with what you're saying, Hayes.
Yeah.
2007, 2008, that's Marshawn Lynch's rookie and sophomore years. He had over 1,000 yards. Then he did not have over 1,000 yards up until 2011, the year before Wilson came in. And then ever since then, he's been over 1,250 yards every year. So I can see what you're saying.
And double-digit touchdowns in the last 4 years. Yeah, he'd never done that before.
That is true. That is true.
So it was. I don't want all the Marshawn Lynch lovers out there to get on me about how. I'm not saying Marshawn Lynch is a bad running back, but if you're going to say Russell Wilson has been, helped by Marshawn Lynch, you can say it the same way, and the other way around. Marshawn Lynch has been helped by Russell Wilson.
And I think
they've both been a product of the game plan as well, because they weren't in the same offense before they came into Seattle. Obviously, Wilson's only been in Seattle, so that could play into a factor as well. But I can see what you're saying.
Yep.
When we go back to talk about Wilson, and I bring up intangibles once again, this guy is he loves life. He loves football. He loves playing for his teammates. Again, we bring back the comparison for Cam Newton, and I'm not the biggest Cam Newton fan, but I think we can all agree that Russell Wilson's attitude and work ethic is probably better. And I think Russell Wilson, there's just something about him that, he motivates the city, he motivates his teammates, he works hard every day, and he doesn't take anything for granted. And there's just something I love about Russell Wilson that puts him over the top for me.
Well, I agree with you there. He's just a likable guy. There's no way of getting around it. I really haven't met anybody who dislikes Russell Wilson. Unless for some reason they think he's just being fake, but I don't think it's fake at all.
No.
I think it's a genuine character that has been felt throughout Seattle's franchise. But, and I agree with you, Cam Newton isn't in that same aspect. He struggled the first few years in Carolina as a leader. I felt like he wasn't that kind of guy that players were willing to follow. You'd often see him sitting on the bench after a poor play with the towel over his head.
Yep.
Looking down at the ground. The whole Superman aspect of it, get over yourself. So I agree with you there that Russell Wilson intangibly is definitely the better guy. He's someone who can be the face of a franchise. But the question here that a lot of people debate is whether he's an elite quarterback. So give me your definition of elite, guys. What do you consider an elite quarterback to be?
You want to go first, Chris?
I'll let you take this one. I went first last time, so I'll let you go.
When I think of an elite quarterback, I like intangibles first. I want a guy who I can count on in clutch moments, who's going to make throws. I think elite quarterbacks really depends a lot on accuracy, doesn't turn the ball over. He's got that killer instinct, take shots down the field, stuff like that I want to see from my quarterback who could be elite. That's what I see. And when it comes to Russell Wilson, for me, do I think he's an elite quarterback? No. Do I think he's an elite player? Possibly. I mean, you know, obviously we know that Russell Wilson isn't the most accurate passer over 15 yards, stuff like that. But I mean, there's just something about him electrifying, makes plays with his legs. And this contract from the Seahawks tells you that he's indispensable and elite in their minds. And that's good enough for me. I wouldn't call Russell Wilson an elite quarterback, but I would call him an elite player in this league.
As for me, the definition of elite when it comes to quarterback, sure, the intangibles come into play. Can he lead a team? And Russell Wilson is a fine example of a leader. But as for skill set and how they play the game, an elite quarterback, in my mind, stays in the pocket and is comfortable in the pocket, and then can pretty much make any pass he throws. Which is why I always look to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I'm not saying if you leave the pocket you're not elite. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, known for leaving the pocket, he's still an elite quarterback in my mind. But it's just a matter of when somebody it's almost hard to explain because if you say a name to me, I can tell you whether or not he's an elite quarterback, and I just can't really put it into words why he is or why he's not. Everybody knows that Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league. Sure, you can have some debate there, but as for elite quarterbacks, in my mind, you've got about, I'd say 5, 6, maybe even 7 guys, and Russell Wilson does not fit into there for me. Elite guys rarely have a bad game, if ever they have a bad game.
For me,
Consistent basis.
the elite tag should carry some kind of. I feel like the quarterback has to have the ability to carry a team on his own. He has to have the ability to win a game in clutch time or win a game when his defense is not playing its best game, win a game when his wide receivers are dropping passes. And again, I know football is a team sport, but when you look at what many people consider the elite quarterbacks in today's NFL, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, maybe you even throw Andrew Luck in there.
You definitely throw Andrew Luck in there.
Yeah.
Drew Brees as well.
Yep. They all have one factor that goes along with all of them. One thing that they all can do, and that is you have the confidence that when they go out there on the field, that they don't have to be surrounded by a bunch of playmakers. They are the playmaker. They are the guy that can lead your team no matter what other factors come into play. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win every game by his own accord, but I think he has to have the ability to go out and win you a game. And in today's NFL, that pretty much means he has to be able to throw for over 4,500 yards. And that's why I don't think Russell Wilson is an elite quarterback yet. I think he's on the fringe of it. Because, again, I don't think, at least we haven't seen him be able to carry a team on his own. And I don't think he's not an elite enough passer yet to be able to do that. You know, he's only throwing for 3,500 yards a year, which for me, I mean, it's just not good enough when you're looking at him as a passer to say he can go win a game for me. He can go throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. You just don't know that quite yet with Russell Wilson. So that's why I can't consider him an elite quarterback, but I think he's very close. He's right on that next tier.
The way Seattle runs that offense, though, I don't think they can have a quarterback that can throw for 4,500 yards. With the way that their defense plays, they're usually ahead, and the way they have Marshawn Lynch, they're run first. I don't think we can throw the stats in there as a determination for whether he's elite or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
No, that's fair to say because Like you said, Seattle's not really a pass first team, but I feel like that's something I feel like Russell Wilson's got to be a guy who can go out and win me a game. If Marshawn Lynch is hurt one week, maybe the Legion of Boom gives up 30 points this game. I need to be able to see that Russell Wilson can go out there and make his receivers better, make the other players around him better, make up for the inefficiencies of the players around him, and go out there and score 35 points to win a game. So that's where my elite tag comes in. That differs a little bit from you guys, but for me, that's the way I look at it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So Russell Wilson, not elite in our books, but Ray Rice, we're gonna move on to him, and I don't think he's elite in anybody's books right now. Um, so Ray Rice recently had an interview with Jamel Hill of ESPN, and she asked him some questions about his recent, his whole domestic assault issue. So let's look at some of the quotes he had in this, in this interview first, and then we'll go ahead and talk about it. So after looking at the interview, here are some of the main quotes that stuck out to me at least. So she had asked him what some of the NFL teams were, the fact that they hadn't signed him yet. And so to him, he said that I realize that we do live in a society where public opinion matters, and I totally respect that. So in that aspect, he's saying that public opinion has really affected his ability to play in the NFL again. He went on to say that this was the worst decision he had ever made in his life. He did everything wrong in that moment and that he was out of his mind. Last year, he took it as an injury year mentally, saying that he's a rehabilitated man now. He wants to rewrite the script for his daughter going forward, so he doesn't want this incident to define him. Especially, he really talked about how he doesn't want it to affect his daughter like this. Throughout the interview, he was obviously disgusted at himself. Really at the fact that he didn't pick up his wife after knocking her down. And he even went on to say, almost on the verge of tears, how did I do this to a woman that beautiful? Then for him, the low point throughout this whole process was the day the video came out, and that he said he knew what it felt like not to want to live anymore. So he's looking for a second chance now. So this really raises the issue, would you give Ray Rice a second chance in the NFL if you're a team?
Here's the thing. As a PR move, no. I mean, I myself, I'm not excusing what he did. I'm not condoning what he did, but I'm just saying people need to move on. I'm now. Don't get me wrong. My basis of my argument is the fact that the way not only is he handling the situation, but his wife as well. They have come together and basically both said, "Hey, look, this was a freak accident. This has never happened before, and it will never happen again." The fact that his wife is on the same track as him makes me believe that they actually believe this, or that they are actually going to go through with this, that they went through rehab and all that together, and they're not going to be, they're not going to be doing this kind of stuff again. Now, here's the thing. Not everybody shares the same mindset as I do. Most people view it as, oh, he's a wife beater, and that's about as blunt as they get. And I feel sorry for Ray Rice, but as a team, I would not want somebody with the cloud over him of, oh, he's a wife beater, on my team. That being said, there are still players on rosters who have been in trouble for dogfights, who have been DUIs, who have been assault, battery, theft. You can just name off pretty much uh, any crime short of murder and other horrible crimes, and there's probably somebody on a roster in the NFL currently who has done that. Now, the thing is, Ray Rice's name is just so big, and people are so sensitive when it comes to domestic violence. That's the problem. A lot of people will not support teams if they sign him, and a lot of advertisers will do the same. They will pull their they'll pull their name from the brand. They will pull their money that they are giving them just because they don't want to be associated with that kind of stuff. As a player, Ray Rice when he left, he was one of the best running backs in the game, and um, coming back, I don't know how effective he will be. That's up for other people to debate. That's up to see if anybody signs him and see how he does. But it would be a bad PR move in my mind to sign Ray Rice. And does he deserve a second chance? My mind, absolutely. But teams are not willing to give him that because of the aura that surrounds him.
And okay, I want to touch on this in two ways. First, from the football aspect, and then second, of the aspect of whether a team should sign him or not based on his issue and this whole thing. First, I'll touch on football. Let's all agree that running back is probably the easiest place or position to replace somebody in. Ray Rice is 28 years old. He's been out of football for a year now. He's undersized. Yeah, Ray Rice was good when he was there. But, even from the football standpoint, I don't see it at all, to be honest with you. There's so many young running backs in college now that can compete and play, and we don't need to talk about these running backs that are old and have been out of the game anymore. So no, I don't think that he would be worth it as a football player, and definitely I'm 100% strongly against signing him in the PR move. Not only do I think this is a bad thing to do as a PR move, I think it's impossible. I don't think it's possible for a team to sign him at all right now with all of the, how big this issue is right now and how many people know who Ray Rice is and they never even heard of football that despise him just because of what he did. That video is brutal, and yes, I understand and I believe in second chances, but I don't think it's possible. And when Ray Rice tells me that he wants to use football as a way to make up things for his daughter, I think that's wrong. There are different ways to change things and make it up to his daughter. Start speaking out against domestic violence, things like that, doing public speaking, apologizing. I know he's done some apologizing already, but other things like that, other than football, should be on his mind right now. And I don't think it's possible for him to be on a team. There should be no team that would want to take this risk because it like you said, Chris, it was all the money they would lose, all the revenue, all the bad rep they would get. Stuff like that takes a factor, and I really do think it's impossible for Ray Rice to ever enter the NFL again. And I think personally that he needs to, maybe, I don't know if he loves football enough, go try the CFL or something like that. But I think he needs to rebuild his life in other areas before football. And then, like I said earlier, if we're talking just pure football, I don't think Ray Rice wouldn't want him anymore. I don't think. He's 28 years old. He's undersized. Running back is the easiest position in football to replace, and I just don't see it, Hayes.
I understand what you guys are saying. It makes sense. I understand. But personally, for me, if I'm an NFL team and I need a running back, and I know what you're saying that there are other guys out there that are younger and maybe better, but I would give Ray Rice a second chance because, for one, I think the PR issue is a bit overblown. I understand that some people may dislike it, but I don't feel like the team would be really bashed for this. It's not like they are condoning or, you know, being a proponent of domestic violence in any way by re-signing or signing Ray Rice on their team. You look at the Greg Hardy incident, and I know it's a little different because Greg Hardy, his video wasn't released to the public. We haven't seen what he did, and honestly, I think what he did is probably worse than what Ray Rice actually did. But just because we haven't actually seen it in the eye of the public, it's not as bad. I think that's really where Ray Rice got screwed in this whole thing, is because That video got leaked and his life changed
Hold up. I think he
completely.
got screwed because of the fact he punched his wife.
Well, no,
That's where he got screwed over.
I know.
And another thing is that also Ray Rice is more popular than Greg Hardy is anyway. More people know Ray Rice from a football standpoint than Greg Hardy anyway. Ray Rice was a superstar. He really
And
was.
Eh,
also, what you
I
were
think. Well,
saying is,
well, hold on. Let me
what you were
finish.
saying is, hold up. I'm debating a
Okay, go
point
ahead.
that you brought up.
Go ahead.
You said that you don't think that uh, companies won't pull their sponsorships, but if you look at what happened with Adrian Peterson's situation, I can't remember which company it was. I want to say it was Nike. I'm not sure if it was Nike. I'm not sure if it was that big of a company, but somebody immediately pulled their sponsorship from the Minnesota Vikings once that happened because of like a press conference that came out uh, with Adrian Peterson in it. In the background, it had that company's logo. Now I can't remember exactly which one it was. It might have been Nike, could have been something else, but companies are going to pull their sponsorships if something like this happens. Now I'll let you continue.
That's fair to say, but I think at that point, that Adrian Peterson news was really fresh. Right now, I think we're starting to recover from the Ray Rice incident a little bit. It's down the road farther. It's almost been a year now. It might actually be over a year now.
It's about like one
It's
year
about a year, yeah, since it came out. But yeah, I just wanted to say about the video. For him, it really elevated his this incident for him because people outside of football saw the video and they officially said to themselves, this guy's a wife beater. There's really no other way of saying it. Greg Hardy, on the other hand, really only a lot of people outside of football, maybe some heard about it, but you know they didn't see the video. It's not quite as big of a deal, certainly, because the video wasn't released, so they haven't really heard about him. That's why I feel like while Ray Rice was maybe a little bit bigger of a star at the time that he actually committed this offense, his was certainly way, way bigger of a deal than Greg Hardy's is right now. But that's not really my point. I just wanted to say that as a, I don't know, something to add in there. I feel like that's why he's not really getting a second chance here, is really because of that video. I think there's no other way of saying it. I think if Greg Hardy's video was released, he wouldn't be in the NFL right now. But he's gotten a second chance. His suspension even got pushed all the way down, by the NFL. So I don't know. I would give Ray Rice a second chance because one, he's different from Greg Hardy because I think this event is an anomaly in his life. I don't think this really defines who he is as a person. He's not a locker room cancer. He's not a guy who's ever had problems before. He was really a guy in the Baltimore community that was, a light in the community, somebody who was really, lauded, who was, someone who was beloved really in a way in Baltimore. He did a lot for the community as far as charity goes. But, the thing I really take out of this is the dangers of alcohol. I really think that
Amen.
is, I think that's really the thing we need to take out of this is because I don't think Ray Rice doesn't do this if he's not intoxicated.
Right.
I think he's obviously intoxicated in this situation, and because of it, he commits this offense. So I think that's really the
That
thing.
being said, just because you get drunk doesn't mean you're going to go beat your wife or your
No,
girlfriend or whatever.
no, it doesn't. But it certainly causes you to do some very stupid things that you wouldn't do otherwise. So I think that's really, the dangers of alcohol is one of the things that's really undermined in this whole situation. No one really talks about it. No one ever brings it up. But if Ray Rice isn't drunk, he doesn't punch his wife. I really think it boils down to that. So I think he made a mistake. His first mistake was getting drunk that night, and it led to further issues that have really changed his life now. But I can't judge him for that one mistake because I really think he's a genuine person. I don't think, Greg Hardy is a guy who's really had problems before. He's everything I've heard, he's just not a really good dude. So I would give Ray Rice a second chance before I'd give Greg Hardy a second chance.
So Hayes, Arian Foster just got hurt. He could miss half the season. You're the GM of the Houston Texans, and you're telling me right now you would give Ray Rice a call?
I would, I don't know. It really just
Who's
depends. I don't know. I I don't see their backs in camp. I know Alfred Blue is a guy out of LSU who could be decent, but he wasn't really that great for them last year. I don't know.
That was just a realistic scenario. Let's
Yeah,
put that
that's
that
fair.
aside. I was just
Yeah, I would. I'd bring him in for a workout because I think he's motivated. He's a guy who's motivated to change his public opinion, his public, his the way people look at him in the public. I think he's motivated to show that he can still play football at this level. I don't. He's only 28, but he missed all of last year. I think he's still got some miles on him. I think the last year he played before this whole event, he was injured, so you didn't really see the real Ray Rice. So I think he's still a valuable asset for a team, especially if you get him on a really cheap contract. I mean, you look at teams like Houston could look at him. Um, Even a team like Tennessee, they've got some young backs, but none are really proven. Dallas could look at him as a veteran presence, or even a team like Carolina, I think would benefit from him being there.
Hayes. I want to touch back on my point when I said that. Why does Ray Rice think he needs football to change his image? I mean, do you really think that football is the way to change all this? I don't. I think it should be done in other ways. When he talks, like I said, if he wants to change his image through football, I think that's the right thing to do.
Solely on football, no. I think if he just goes out there and plays football, it might not change anybody's opinion. But I think he can use football as a platform. Because if he just goes out there and starts talking about domestic abuse or domestic violence, no one's. You might get some people caring about it. You might get some recognition for it. But if he plays in the NFL and he plays well, then he can use that platform to reach more people and really become a proponent of fighting domestic violence. I think that's where he uses that stage. He uses this opportunity to play in the NFL as a way to, you know, bring back his reputation in a way. Not only as a football player, but as a person, I think.
I think his popularity is pretty good enough right now, don't you think? I don't think that
Yeah.
he has a pedestal issue here. I think, maybe if he was a back who was not very, if he didn't have the career stats Ray Rice does, then maybe. But, I mean, he's already got a pretty high pedestal, and I think, I don't know, maybe this is my opinion, but I think he doesn't really need football to change his image. I mean, obviously, if he wants to play football, that's fine. I understand that's his love and his passion. But like I said, I don't think any of the 32 teams would give him a legitimate chance.
I mean, you might be right in that aspect. Some people might not be willing to give him a chance. I think I'd at least give him a look. If I bring him in for a workout and he looks terrible, be on your way. But I think for him, going back to this, using the NFL as a platform, honestly, if he just goes out and talks to high schools, goes to some colleges talking about domestic violence, prisons, who knows what.
Why can't he do that right now?
As bad as it sounds, I just don't think people are going to care as much if he's still not in the limelight of the NFL. It's because you're using that platform as a way of, renewing your popularity in a sense. People are still talking about you. If you go out and rush for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, people care about you more than if you're just going around and talking to prisons. And it's sad in a certain way,
It's
but
very sad.
it's kind of the sad truth that you're gonna earn more recognition if you play well, and then he can use that in a sense to earn more, places to talk about his experiences.
What are you thinking about this, Chris?
Um, Really, I'm pretty much on the side of Justin here. Not much else I can add other than, I mean, yeah, he should be looking towards other things than the NFL. Sure, he can use the NFL to help his situation, but I mean, it may make a bigger effect in the public's eye, but at the end of the day, who would you rather want to think more of you? Do you want your family to think more of you, or do you want the public to think more of you? It just matters to what's more important to Ray Rice.
Hmm. Oh, that's fair to say, and that's it's something good to consider. I think you made a good point there, Justin. Bringing that up is, does he really need football to, bring back his image the way it was? So that's something good to consider. But another question I want to think about here because of this Ray Rice incident is, for you, where is the fine line for giving these players second chances? Where is the point uh, as far as, he did this or he did that? Where do you draw the fine line where you say, I'm not going to touch this guy? What kind of offense is it for you?
I mean, we've seen every sort of offense in the NFL. I said short of murder earlier, but then a player came to mind who was at least in talks of murder. I mean, nobody. I'm not sure. I can't remember if it was definitely proven, but as for Ray Lewis's situation, um, in that whole situation that occurred, I mean, we've seen Michael Vick, that type of deal, Greg Hardy. It's, I mean, I would draw the line at, if it's a felony, then you shouldn't NFL. But fortunately, the NFL is all about making that money, and whatever name's going to make them the most money, they're going to bring back in, regardless of what happens. If they see that this person has a bad light over them and it's not going to make them any money, then they won't do anything. But if the name's big enough, they'll keep them back in, which I wish it was a different way. I mean, I wish it was different than that, but that's just how it is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Justin. What do you think?
I if I were to be a head coach of a football team, I kind of can't speak of this because I don't know how NFL players act, but I personally wouldn't put up with a whole heck of a lot. Um, I have a strong sense of Christian moral values, and when it comes to stuff like this, illegal stuff and stuff like this, I don't think I have a very long leash. I think my leash is rather short. But if somebody were to commit an offense, something like that, I'd want to sit down and talk with them face to face first and listen to them, because you never know. I want to hear their side of the story first, and I don't want to believe what all the media says. And I guess my leash wouldn't be very long, but at the same time, I understand this is a business too, and that we got to win football games. So, but yeah, when you talk about felonies, obviously that's out of question. I'm not going to have anybody on my team who's committing a felony. But yeah, that's just my side of things there, Hayes.
Yeah, yeah. I I agree with you guys. Like, if this guy committed a murder or a legitimate felony and he's going to jail, he's probably not worth your time, considering he's going to be seeing time. But I, for me, the line is depending on the player or the person himself. Now, if they didn't commit some serious crime, like we just said, I would be willing to give most guys a second chance because, like you, I am founded on those strong Christian moral values, but I do, in a sense, in that manner, believe in second chances,
Right, yeah.
especially for a guy like Ray Rice, because I don't think he is defined by this. Now, if the guy's a locker room cancer and this is a crime that defines who they are as a person, they're gone. I don't want any part of them on my football team. Otherwise, if deep down this person is a decent human being and they just made a stupid mistake, then I'm one of those guys that will give them another chance if they're genuine with me and if I feel like they actually have the ability to improve as a person or come back from that mistake. But so we all agree, felonies are a no-go.
Misdemeanor, you get a talking to.
Yeah. All right, I got you. Well, Christopher, I want you to go ahead and take over here. We're going to talk about the MLB. We're switching from the NFL here.
Oh, good.
MLB Trade Deadline.
Finally, I get
This
to
is
talk about this.
this is all you.
Now, I already have an article up at Youngspeak detailing the major trades that happened, or at least the major teams that won big with using the trade deadline. Now, first, I want to talk about my biased team, my team I am biased towards. That is the Kansas City Royals. Um, they went out and traded for the ace Johnny Cueto. Oh my goodness, I love that deal so much because we ended up giving away Brandon Finnegan. That was the only big piece we ended up giving up. He's like 21, 22 years old, out of TCU. He's going to be a good pitcher someday. He was relieving for us, but again, the Royals are looking for a World Series, and Cueto is the piece they needed. They also traded for Ben Zobrist, which is a good deal for the situation because left fielder Alex Gordon is currently out with an injury. He's going to be out till about September-ish. And Zobrist is a utility man. He can pretty much play anywhere in the field. So right now, I believe they have him out in left. If they don't, they have him at second, which is where Omar Infante is. Now, once Gordon comes back, they're going to put Zobrist where Infante is. Now, Infante is struggling offensively, and Zobrist is shining currently. So this is a good deal all around for them. The Royals also sent away Joe Blanton. He's an aged pitcher. Sent him to the Pirates just for cash considerations. And that's pretty much all the Royals did. They may have made a couple other minor moves, but really they didn't really give away much and got a lot, which I love.
Well, and Christopher, let me jump in here. So, with these moves at the trade deadline, how much do you feel that improves the Royals' chances at grabbing a World Series title this year?
Now, before the trades they made, I was thinking they probably make it at best the ALCS, and then they lose there. Now, I'm not so certain about that. I can actually see them going to the World Series again. Will I say they win? I don't know. They're the Royals. Meh. I we don't have to worry about the Giants because it's an odd year. Um,
Yeah, even
I
the
think their
Braves beat them the other day.
the World Series, their World Series chances definitely improve because of this. But I don't think they're a for certain lock. We still have to see what happens uh, come playoff time. The Royals have a good game plan for the playoffs. The style of baseball they play is perfect for playoff baseball, and the fact that they now have that one pitcher that they can go to, and they know that in clutch situations he's gonna win the ball game for them is perfect. Which is what they were missing last year. It's what the Giants had last year in Madison Bumgarner, and went and well, history is history. Another team that went out and traded for an ace, probably the best pitcher on the market. And I mean, honestly, their World Series chances are not that good in the first place. They're not, excuse me, they're not really improved that much at all. But it's Toronto Blue Jays. Went out and got David Price. He was the former Tampa Bay Rays ace, did amazing there, went and then ended up going to the Tigers. Now the thing about the Tigers is they have been dominant over the past few years, but they've never won a World Series in that span. I think they went to one. I'm not sure if they won that, but they've just been unable to do anything come playoff time. So they are struggling to the point of the trade as of the trade deadline, they were struggling, so they decided to sell off a couple of their major pieces. One of those was David Price. They sent him to Toronto, who earlier also traded for Troy Tulowitzki. Now, everybody knew Troy Tulowitzki was on the trading block, but nobody really thought he was going to trade it because he has a massive contract. Everybody just assumed that he would remain with Colorado until maybe somebody with a bigger budget like the Yankees or the Dodgers traded for him. But I think this actually helps the Blue Jays out in the regular season. I do believe that looking at how tight the race for the AL East pennant is, I think this helps them pull ahead of everybody else, and they are going to win the AL East tentatively. But come playoff time, that's a completely different story. Their rotation is terrible past David Price, and that's just going to end up shooting them in the foot. Now, another team that went out and who had World Series hopes that nobody would have expected, and went out and improved their team even more was the Houston Astros. They were a very big surprise this year. Nobody expected them to be where they are now. Everybody expected them to have the record they currently have, maybe 2 years down the line. But all of their talent is budding now, which is amazing because they're all still young. Now, the Astros went out and traded for Scott Kazmir, probably the third or fourth best pitcher on the market. And the Astros actually picked him up earlier in the trade season, like about a week or so before the deadline actually occurred. Now they shipped off. Excuse me. They also received Mike Fiers and Carlos Gomez. Fiers was a guy that was thrown into the Gomez deal just to make it a little sweeter. Now Gomez is an outfielder formerly of the Milwaukee Brewers, who is hitting for power. Who will be hitting for power? Going to be the cleanup batter for the Astros, and I think this improves their chance of being a playoff success because their rotation is already great as it is, and they're just batting off the charts right now. And this, I mean, watch out for the Astros. I mean, we could be talking a potential dynasty. It's just a matter of come free agency, are they going to be able to afford all these people? And the answer is no.
Well, and that's amazing just how they've been able to rebuild here in just a few years. I mean,
I wouldn't say rebuild in a few years.
well,
I would say the rebuilding came into fruition a few years before expected.
yeah, I guess the thing is, 2 years ago, I want to say they were a pretty bad team.
They've been bad for a long time now, like
Oh,
5, 6 years.
After the killer bees left.
yep,
Yeah,
yep. I'm
I
just surprised, like you had just said, I'm just surprised it came this soon.
I actually looked up not too long ago the power rankings of teams 5 years ago compared to they are today, and four of the top five of the time I had actually looked it up when they were 5 years ago, they were actually in the bottom five or bottom six or however it was. Like the Astros were dead last, the Royals were like 27th, the Pirates were like 28th, and all that. It's just amazing to see uh, the teams that have turned themselves around since 5, 4, 3 years ago.
Yep.
And one way to do that is through trading. Speaking of trading, the New York Mets went out and picked up another former Tiger, one that the Tigers were trying to sell. As stated before, they were in full-on sell mode after have just completely dropped the ball this season. They traded for Yoenis Cespedes. Now, the Mets, they did not need to worry about their rotation because even John Smoltz says that the current Mets rotation at one point will be better than the rotation the Braves had in the 90s. Now, at first, I was laughing that off, but after taking it into consideration with Matt Harvey, Jacob deGrom, Zach Wheeler, I think his point has incredible validation to it. I mean, this is going to be. I mean, just watch out for the Mets in coming years. But what the Mets needed was power in their lineup, and they went and got Yoenis Cespedes, one of the most powerfully hitting left fielders in the game. Now, everybody thought they were going to have to trade DeGrom, maybe Wheeler to get them, but the Mets only ended up giving up Luis Sessa and Michael Fulmer for it, which was a great deal for them because, as you remember, a few days before, the Mets were rumored to have traded for Carlos Gomez, sending away Wilmer Flores and Zach Wheeler, I want to say. Now, and then Wilmer Flores is famous crying while still in the game after learning he had been trading, came out of that. But after seeing that they only gave up two right-handed pitchers that I'm going to be honest, I never heard of before for Yoenis Cespedes, I mean, the Mets, and considering how bad the NL East is, it's pretty much a race between the Nationals and the Mets at this point. The Mets could be looking for a wild card spot, or they could be looking to win it. But honestly, I think the Nationals are going to pull ahead in the NL East, and they're going to end up winning that. And those were some of the bigger trades that happened. Some of the other interesting deals that happened, or lack of deals, was the Dodgers. They went out and they got Alex Wood, Matt Latos, Jose Tabata, and others. Now, the Dodgers were in market for a fifth man in the rotation, because that's desperately what they needed. Everywhere else, they've been stacked for the most part, but for some reason, that fifth man in the rotation has always been so bad that it makes up for how good they are, and I don't understand it. Looking at how good they are, also Clayton Kershaw, he just forgets to pitch come October, or forgets how to pitch come October. But the the people they got, I don't think are going to be good enough to fill that void. The Dodgers are going to struggle in the playoffs again, get eliminated earlier than they should, and they actually gave up Hector Oliveira, he's around 30 years old, but he can still be effective wherever he is. They also gave up Paco Rodriguez, one of the best pitching prospects in the game, along with Jeff Brigham, another one in the same light. Now, where they went, those three that I was talking about, they went to the Braves, who did a great job doing what they doing what they needed to have done. They're currently rebuilding, so the Braves went out and traded for young athletes, young baseball players to help out their situation. I'm not saying baseball players aren't athletes, but you get what I'm saying. It was wrong choice of words in the situation. The Braves acquired Paco Rodriguez, Zachary Bird, Rob Whalen, and John Gant, all of which are young pitchers who are going to be great in the league. And when I say going to be great, I'm just saying they have good potential. They have a great chance of being great. Let me put it that way. And they also got Hector Oliveira, who I've already talked about. Another big trade that happened was Cole Hamels. Now, over the past year, maybe 2 years, everybody knew that Cole Hamels was going to be traded. The former World Series MVP had been on a struggling Phillies team for quite some time now, and that we all know that the Phillies are looking to rebuild. But the only thing that was wrong with this trade was where Hamels ended up. The Phillies didn't really get much back in the deal. They didn't get Chichi Gonzalez, who's the Rangers' best pitching prospect. They didn't really get much, but the Rangers, it just made no sense for them to get him because they're not in contention, and also Yu Darvish is injured, out for the year. So this trade really made no sense whatsoever. Um,
Yeah, and Chris, let me jump in here for a second. Just looking at all of the teams that you just talked about, who do you think was the biggest winner out of the trade deadline here?
as far as star power goes, I would have to say the Toronto Blue Jays. As for getting what they needed, I would say the Royals, and I'm trying to put all biases aside in that aspect, because the Royals desperately needed a ace and desperately needed um, a bat to replace Omar Infante. Not saying he's not bad or anything, but he's just been a sour spot in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But teams that have lost in the deadline, I want to talk about that for a second. That's the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, or the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles, whichever way you want. Everybody knows that they are an offensive juggernaut, but have no pitching to back it up, which kills them in the playoffs. Naturally, with so many good pitchers on the market, they were looking to make some deals. However, the deals they made were in the exact opposite sense of what they wanted to do. They went out and traded for 4 players, none of which are pitchers, and 3 of which play the same position. Shane Victorino, David DeJesus, and David Murphy all are left fielders. So, I don't know who's going to be in the left fielder spot for the Angels, but yeah, I don't know. And then they also traded for Connor Gayipsi. I have no idea how to pronounce that, and I apologize to Connor for the butchering of his name. And Angels fans, you're gonna enjoy another postseason of getting swept. And then also the Padres. That's the last team I want to touch on. They should have been in full-on sell mode because the pieces they have aren't working out. The players they have, I mean, aren't working out, and they should have been in full-on sell mode. Uh, they were 50 and 53 at the time of the deadline. and they had so much potential to trade away their big pieces and get so much in return. They could have traded away Craig Kimbrell. The Yankees were high on the Yankees were high. What am I trying to say here? The Yankees really wanted him. Justin Upton was also going to be on the move, but they held up to him. Same as Matt Kemp. James Shields was also thrown in there at one point. It was just baffling to see them hold out on trading when they could have made the best out of it. But the Padres owner is confident in the team he has built, and nobody else is confident in that. And that's about it I have for the trade deadline.
Well, yeah, and you
Other than the Cardinals adding Moss, Steve Cishek, and Jonathan Broxton, that's about it.
Mhm. When you even went as far to say is that it was one of the best trade deadlines you had seen in recent memory. Would you just say that because of the star power that was moved?
Absolutely, that's what makes the trade deadline good. The amount of star power on the move and the amount that has a potential to be moved and the amount that is actually moved.
Mhm. So this year it just came into fruition that all of these high caliber players were actually moved.
Mhm. Like
Gotcha.
last year, pretty much, if I remember right, the big deal was John Lester and not Scott Kazmir, Jeff Samardzija, and that really didn't end up doing too well for the teams that they went to, and they're actually currently on different teams, same city, different teams. Samardzija ended up signing with the White Sox and Lester with the Cubs. But
Well, and
as
last year,
just
the
just
big
been a good.
trade, like you had just said, was Leicester for Jonas Cespedes, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Um, I'd have to remember it.
When the Athletics and the Red Sox made that move for the Athletics to because they had thought they were making a World Series run.
Yeah, Cespedes has been traded so many times. It's hard
It,
to remember
yeah, he's been
which deal
traded.
he went to.
That's
Like he
true.
was, he. I think you got it right. I think Lester went to the A's for Cespedes, and then in the offseason, Cespedes got traded to the Tigers for I don't remember what,
Hmm.
and now he got traded again. He's the he what was it? Luke Ridnour? Didn't he get traded or
About
was it him?
five times in a few
Five to
days,
whoa.
5 or 6 times in a few days, something like
That's
that. Yeah.
crazy, man.
But yeah, thank you, Chris, for all of that MLB trade deadline info. You got a lot in there in a short amount of time, so we appreciate that. But
Yeah, I can go to sleep now.
yeah,
You can go to sleep now because that's going to mark the end of our podcast for this week. We talked about Ray Rice and whether we'd give him a second chance. I think I would, but maybe you guys wouldn't. We also allowed Chris to go on a ramble about the MLB trade deadline that passed last week and some of the big trades that went on there. And then our big topic for this week was Russell Wilson. Is he an elite quarterback? Was he worth the money? We gave you our opinion on it. Now it's time for you to decide. But that's going to be it for us here at Youngspeak Sports. Take it easy, folks.